Hey everyone, let's check out Emperor Vlad today after, well, getting the disappointment that was Guardian Blade Charlotte. But Vlad, so much I will spoil, is the better of the two. So Vlad, the overview, he is a physical based dark magic chainer and he can also flex element chain in base form. And in Brave Shift he is an actual dark magic finisher. An interesting one, so to speak, too. Also the sprite, the Brave Shift sprite, looks actually pretty badass, if you're asking me. Alright, so the abilities. He doesn't really have that much, but as you can see, the star points toward physically based magic damage on Solitary Wand of Darkness and Execrating Mirror of Equity. But he also has that lone Mirror of Equity for his untyped magic, which can be imbued and you can chain him with anything. And at 100x, this is pretty sweet. Not gonna lie, it is one of his great perks that he actually can work as a chainer. So if you're a new player, need a chainer, he's pretty good. Other than that, he does have a Groundus, which increases defense, barrier 5k, and reduces damage taken 50%, and yeah, 50% general, physical, and magic mitigation for himself only, sadly. It would have been way cooler if it was for all party members. And would have been also cool if he could increase damage against humans on his cooldown. But alas, I guess I can't have everything. Passives, should be noted that he has innate 5x cap, so just throw SOS Lightning's STMR on him and you'll be good to go at 6x. True double hand, which is good, I like it. He also has some innate dark magic, which shouldn't be surprising for a magic damage dealer. And his base LB is an 888 hit chaining LB with very... I mean, it has the SPR reduction on it, but it's bad. 75%. It's below Ibarra. Is it though? Not quite sure. But I mean, it's bad all around. We are at a place in the game with 90% spirit breaks on LBs or 87 on demand. 75 just doesn't cut it anymore. So some things on his kit, they actually remind me of the start of the era Near Vision rather than 1 year in. His Brave Shift works pretty much like Regina or Delta Sakura, in that you have four abilities, that you can cast, and each one is single cast only. So in an ideal world, you're gonna do 3 of the unlocks, such as, let's say, Wand Reduction Order, Magic Elevation Order, Strength Preservation Order, and then you will finish off with True Power of Solitude. Now, if you think that you can just do all 4 power-ups and keep that modifier increase, you are sadly wrong. They only last for the turn they are applied to. They do not move over to the next turn. You have to start over. While the finishing move, True Power of Solitude, does seem weak at first, we have to take a look at his LB to see that it actually is super strong once it's fully powered up. And at maximum potential, the True Power of Solitude reaches 975x modifier. We'll get to that in a second. What you can also see is that Vlad has 300% innate human killer. So he gains, let me quickly check, he has 250 Betrayer of the Veritas and another 50 in Alpha Star's True Identity. That is 300% human magic physical killer right off the bat. Excellent. When it comes to human killing, he is really good. And yeah, this is his LB. I only include the max level LB, which is 50 LB crystals. And yeah, this is what it does. You have to wait a bit, especially 3 turns, so the turn you do it, it increases modifiers, right? 250 right off the bat. After 2 turns, it increases by another 250, and these stack. So on the 250 you've gotten on the initial turn, you're gaining another 250 2 turns later. And on the 3rd turn, you get a whopping 300 on top of it. That is 800 increase. Now you have the 25 base, which means we are at 825. You use 3 modifiers on the same turn anyway, and that gets you up to 975x. This skill also increases his dark amps by 50%, which is very strong, and it is one of the highest dark amps in the game. But this also implies, because his Brave Shift only lasts 4 turns, you have to LB on the very same turn that you Brave Shift, or else your whole rotation doesn't work anymore. Alright. And to help with that, he gains his LB gauge is filled immediately at the start of the battle. Alright, let's check out his Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. His Trustmaster is a materia with 40% dark resistance and 100% true single wield magic. And true single wield means that you can wear it with or without the shield, it doesn't matter, you still gain the true 100% true double hand magic, for example, which is very, very good. And it's very good on himself, especially. My voice is kind of bad today. Excuse me for that. It's very good for himself because he immediately caps equipment magic with that. And another thing is that it opens up more bulk in formats such as Clash of Wills, where you could, for example, equip a spirit shield, a high spirit shield, to give him more bulk to survive attacks such as the ones Morgana does, for example. And from my point of view, it's just a decent materia in general, because it's true single wield, and I'm a fan of true single wield materia. The Super Trustmaster, on the other hand, is rather underwhelming. 184 magic, which is already on the lower side of things, and the auto buff that either applies at the start of the fight, after you Brave Shift, or upon being revived. Yeah, it is cool on paper, but all in all, I mean, you gain 300% magic regardless, because you have to LB, and on the final LB power-up move there is a 300% magic buff. So there is really, I mean, the passive really reads well, but if you get onto his kit and read up on it, it just doesn't seem good anymore. And I feel like this should have been a 192, 195 staff with maybe, say, killers on it, or leave it at 184 and put 50% killers on it for, I don't know what, humans, for example. I mean, he's capped on humans anyway, but this would make other units. It would be a great rod for other units as well, because nobody else is going to use this. Not worth chasing in general. We have so many, so much better rods in the game. Dark Gambantein, Lazy Rod, Dark Fiend and Salt's Rod, you name it. There's so much better rods available. So I feel like it's a wasted opportunity. The Vision card, I mentioned this yesterday already, but it's the same that Charlotte has. So yeah, it's a great card for Ibarra in theory, less so for Vlad, but Luis's card is better for the both of them. It just has more magic, and 80 magic for a magic DPS, it's just very weak. I would even find 100 magic weak to be the case these days, but I'd allow it for being 100 and still be considered half decent. But 80, that's just not gonna cut it anymore. The passive magic is good, but in general the card is just not relevant. But it's relevant for Starlight and Near Vision Awakened Alina, like I said yesterday, because it has that decent mix of both attack and magic. Alright, let's get down to the damage calculations. Should look very familiar. There is only 2 changes I made to this. Terra got upgraded because we are assuming Ling in our team now who has 25% fire amplification, which also applies to Terra. And Vivi gets upgraded by Louise's fire field, because if you're using a fire team, you sure are going to use Louise. You cannot convince me otherwise. Louise is just too good to pass up on, and if you're using the Louise-Vivi combo, Vivi is going to automatically deal more damage, and that means that Terra is now at 50% total amplification with the Dark Visions field, and Louise plus Vivi are at 86%. That also leaves Luna Freya a little bit hanging, and you will see that she is starting to fall behind in the damage department just because she is actually missing weapon imperils and better amplifications. But other than that, we are also now using gun imperils because Louise has one innately. For Vlad, I am assuming a 130 Dark Imperil, but most of the time this may actually not be applicable. Just because the units that have the Dark Imperil, such as I believe Gilgamesh for example, they are really not used in Dark teams at all. Maybe some may use Venera in Dark teams, but I feel like this is a stretch. So not quite sure. I did this just for consistency and to not have Vlad fall behind too much, but in reality if you have to choose, you would probably use a 120 Dark Imperil, and that means he's falling behind in damage even more than he already is, as you will see in a second. So this is the gearing. Again, I'm not building him towards a human. I mean, I could, but I'd have 3 materia slots. This would skew results. Obviously, he's super good against humans, but I do not give anyone the best opportunity. We are always taking the worst case scenario, and the worst case scenario is pretty much any other race. I chose demons in this case, as I usually do. And yeah, this is what came out. Still decent magic, still very good equipment. This is Louise's build, should look very familiar to you from last week. These are the builds for the competition. And these are the results. And yeah, as you can see, Emperor Vlad, he's just barely behind Luna Freya, which may be surprising to some of you. But yeah, one of the reasons is obviously Rod Imperil. Also, he does have 50% amp, innately 86 if he has a field up, so he is pretty good in that regard. Ibarra is still ahead though, and she's a 10-month-old unit, so make of that what you will. And well, yeah, Louise and Vivi are still far ahead of Vlad, and even if you slash Vivi's damage in half, because you have to kind of use Steiner, so it's 2 in 1 basically, and if you just take Vivi's actual part of it, he'd be at 1.1 billion, close to Louise. And thus, Emperor Vlad really looks kind of outdated, even though he's the latest and shiniest new unit we've got. And again, I want to reiterate, Luna Freya is falling behind because she's missing the crucial pieces of the puzzle, namely amplifications. 15% are just not cutting it anymore these days, and most importantly, she is missing a weapon imperil. That one is coming with Yuna, but Yuna is 2 to 3 months away at this point in time. And once Yuna arrives, Luna Freya will become very relevant again. So how does Vlad fare in the meta? Vlad is a strong mage for dark stages where the boss's type is human, because he has 300% human killer at level 1, that is pretty sweet. And he works great with Ibarra because both of them will probably easily cap a dark stage human boss, but we don't have that combination. We do have a dark boss, dark magic boss coming up in this next Dark Vision, but that one is also weak to fire. And yeah, if it's weak to fire, you can use any combination of Louise, Terra plus Vivi and Steiner, and you'll be capping anyway, so there is no point or there's no reason to bring Vlad in this. So yeah, you also have to consider that we will be merging physical and magic stages in Dark Visions very soon. There's just 2 more Dark Visions, so the one that starts in 2 weeks and the one in August, and then we're done. From there on out, from September onwards, we will have single element dark visions that do not focus on either physical or magical, so you have to actually take a look which unit is better for that stage. And mages, so much for a spoiler, they are on the short end of the stick most of the time, because units such as Sephiroth, Tifa, Zidane, maybe Hawkeye if we're getting him, they are of far greater value than most mages. Even Sephiroth, when he's wrong elementing, he can still 9.999 billion cap. So I think that tells a lot about the viability of mages going forward, sadly. But yeah, even in Clash of Wills, Vlad is not going to do much. Outside of dark and human focused teams, you'd have to have Barrage on him, and then he's just sitting there for 4 turns waiting for his LB to finish. I don't think he's going to be much of a help in Clash of Wills, but I may be wrong, it's just too early to tell. So yeah, all in all, he'll be forgotten rather quickly. So should you pull? Yeah, the short answer is no. I mean, he's certainly better than Charlotte on this banner, but absolutely irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. We may have one and only one use in the upcoming Dark Visions. Like I mentioned, it's weak to Dark. But you don't need him if you already have Ibarra, and you also don't need him if you have any 2 combinations of Louise, Terra, and Vivi. So yeah, the only thing that Emperor Vlad is good for is actually as a bench warmer in Dark Visions and probably any other content. I mean, he's still fine for newer players because he does have that super strong 100x flexible element chaining move, Absolute Mirror of Equity 2. But that's about it. For veteran players, there's actually really no reason to pull for him if you have any of the 4 units. So Ibarra, Louise, Terra, Vivi. It's just that simple. So yeah, my verdict is skip him, and you will probably off-banner him at some point, get the TMR and forget about him right away. And that concludes today's unit review of Emperor Vlad. I hope you enjoyed this, and maybe I'll do another video tomorrow. I don't know what about, maybe showcasing Ling and Louise outside of Clash of Wills. We'll see. But for now, that concludes today's videos. Have a nice rest of the Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're from. Goodbye.